Okay, there's a story making the rounds right now about how Eddie Van Halen co-wrote a Black Sabbath song with Tony Iommi and played on the Black Sabbath song and was never given credit. And Tony Iommi made this revelation in a recent interview that he did to promote the box set that's coming out from the Tony Martin era of Sabbath. And he goes into some details about how the whole thing happened, and let's hear him talk about it right now. Here is Tony Iommi.
That brief appearance on the record, I mean, just that's quite something. Do you remember how that story came about?
He had the day off and he said, I'll come down to the rehearsal. I said, we're rehearsing. Oh, well. I said, do you want to come? He said, yeah, I'd love to. So that's what he done, really. And I picked him up in Birmingham at the hotel, and then we drove via the music shop. I said, should we pick a guitar up? Said, yeah, let's pick a guitar up. So we did. One of his Eddie Van Halen ones, they got one in, and then we went down rehearsal. And I said we're working on this song, and we started playing it, and he started playing a solo to it, and we played a couple of old Sabbath songs first, you know. And then I said to him, you're playing that wrong. He went, oh. He said, because they used to play Sabbath stuff before they were, no. And I think it was Into the Void or something or other, I can't remember. And I said, no, that's not quite right. But anyway, that's sort of the relationship we had, and we stuck friends up until he passed away.
All right, a couple of key points we can take from those comments are, one, that Eddie Van Halen bought his own guitar from a guitar shop, that he had enough confidence in the Eddie Van Halen model to pick one up to go play with Tony Iommi in the studio. And another one is that Tony Iommi could point out to Eddie Van Halen mistakes that he was making in classic Black Sabbath song. But the even bigger point that I think is interesting to be made about this has to do with why there wasn't further collaboration between the two. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I'm sure you would like to know what the song is. And the song is Evil Eye, which comes from the 1994 album Cross Purposes. And if you go back and listen to it, now that you know Eddie Van Halen plays on it, you'll hear Van Halen all over that track. And you'll also, like me, think, well, God, they sound really good together. Maybe they should have done more material. Maybe Ed and Tony Iommi should have collaborated on, an album or just a few more songs. Well, I think the answer to why that never happened is in the article, and the reason that was given for why Eddie Van Halen wasn't properly credited for his contribution to the song is that Warner Brothers held his contract and stood in the way of letting him be credited on a Black Sabbath album. So again, we have an instance where creative inspiration and artistic expression is being pressed by the overriding need to control money and intellectual property. And this goes way back to the 90s, and as I've been saying in my recent videos, it's only going to get worse with the massive paydays that companies are shelling out for artists' music catalogs and images. I think we've only begun to see the new era of copyright control and copyright wrangling and fighting and jockeying. And I also think that it may be a lot of uproar for very little profit for those who are rich enough to play in the game. Because if you have been keeping track of how many artists, classic artists, are canceling their tours, arena tours, or in the case of the Black Keys, trying to scale it down to club. Heart recently canceled their tour, and there are other examples of this virtually every day. So I think that the music industry is changing faster than anyone can keep pace, but I also think that as the potential for mad profits dwindles, the grip of corporate control also loosens a little bit and leaves room for more artistic expression and more creativity. But I also think that people who create music and play music need to be able to earn a living. As always, the music industry continues to be perplexing and in some cases extremely unjust to both the performers and the fans. And this is certainly the case when it comes to this old story of how Eddie and Tony began to collaborate in the studio. But at least we have this one track, and maybe there's even more buried in there somewhere. where Eddie has played a little bit here and there, and maybe those revelations will come out as this interview series to promote the Tony Martin era box set continues. One thing that I think is that when it comes to the future of music, there will be more and more collaborations like this that will complicate the legal and royalty picture, because the vehicles for collaboration are so much easier now. You can get online and collaborate with anyone, and you can do it at any time of the day, and you can do it regardless of where any other person is. So I think that we're going to see more and more and more collaborations, and more and more and more mashups, and more and more blending of artists' identities, including things that will be done with AI. But at the same time, you're going to have more and more people interested in keeping control over those same creative elements. Anyway, this is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. Also, check out the join button that's available now. If you become a member of the channel, you'll get access to members-only badges, members-only polls, members-only videos, and other cool perks that you'll see when you click the button. In fact, the members only section has just become overflow content due to the fact that I'm placing all the archived videos there, so you'll want to check that out. You can also support the site by clicking on the Buy Me a Coffee link, going to the Buy Me a Coffee site, and leaving a donation, which would be very much appreciated, as every little bit helps this channel survive. Thanks a lot.